This is the She Dares to Travel podcast, and I am your host, Raquella Pollock. After spending a decade managing the #1 travel agency in Canada and now working with tourism businesses in risk management, I am here to connect you with women who are taking the travel industry by storm, as well as business professionals with a passion for travel, just like me. We are here to inspire, motivate, and uplift you to not only follow, but plan out your dreams, no matter where in the world they may be. Be sure to leave a review, subscribe, and follow along. Hello, all you daredevils. Welcome back. Another exciting episode talking about my favorite topic, travel. And I have someone here, and if there's a word that is better than travel expert, that's where I would put her at. I have Claire Newell here with me today. She is, in fact, a travel expert, media personality, author, journalist, and founder and president of Travel Best Bets. For the past 30 years, Claire Newell has appeared on Global TV BC 6 times a week, CKNW Radio 4 times a week, and is a regular guest on Global TV's national The Morning Show. Claire's been a guest on BC's Today Show, Fox and Friends, CNN, and other national programs. She's written articles for various print and online publications, as well as authoring her own best-selling book, Travel Best Bets, an insider's guide to taking your best trips ever. I love the sound of that. She's also been a media spokesperson for many, many companies, including Disney, Hilton Hotels Worldwide, Bridgestone Tires, Chase Sapphire Preferred Card, and TD Bank. She has been featured in ads and promotions for Visit Las Vegas, Visit Anaheim, Visit Laguna Beach, and Vancouver International Airport, Hong Kong Tourism, BC Ferries, and the Canadian Tourism Commission. Now, in her spare time, she has also visited over 65 countries with a ton more on the bucket list. I am thrilled to have you here today. That is quite the resume, Claire.
31 years of being in this crazy travel industry. Thank you so much. What really made me sound much better than I actually am. So thanks for the introduction.
You are welcome. Well deserved. And whereabouts are you joining us from today?
Well, actually, I'm in my office. I've got a few kind of set up studios. One is at my office, which is really close to Global BC. For obvious reasons, I'm there so often. But I also have one in my home because you mentioned that I was often on The Morning Show, which is a national show, but it's broadcast out of Eastern Canada. I'm based in Vancouver. And so it's a wake up at 4:45, and I do it from my house before I head over to my office, which is in Burnaby, BC.
Amazing. That is early. So your day starts really early then, for the most part.
It does start really early. And part of the reason is that one of the first things I do every single morning to keep myself up to date on what's going on in the travel industry is to read all of the travel wires and make sure I know exactly what's going on. If I've learned anything from this business is that it is constantly changing. And it's hard almost to keep up every day. Probably takes me at least an hour every morning just to catch up on what's new, what's going on.
So what is new right now? What is the 1 hour morning gossip that you got in travel this morning?
Yeah, well, there's so many little things. One of the things that I noticed this morning, and it affects me because I have a little dog that I sometimes travel with, and the US has changed the regulations for traveling with your dog into the US. So just to lower the risk of rabies into there. But one of the things is that you have to have a microchip and they have to have had their vaccine. And so my dog does not have a microchip. He's tattooed in his ear. So that's something, if I want to take him down to Arizona where my parents snowbird 6 months of the year, that's going to have to be something that I change as of, I think it's August either 1st or the 31st.
Isn't it so true that it is constantly changing? And I hear you on that. I used to manage a travel agency for many years, and it was anytime something would change, it'd be this ripple effect, and that you just have to adjust and think fast on your feet. Always.
You do. And I have a team now of, I never thought I would be getting to this, but I've got a team in both a Burnaby office, a Langley office. Plus, we have 400 home-based agents, and that division of the business is growing like crazy. So I've got like an army of people that need to know exactly what's going on because it affects all of our clients.
Absolutely. And how did you get into radio, TV, broadcasting? Did you go to college, university?
Well, I have a university degree from UBC. I'm a BC gal through and through. I grew up in Abbotsford and then went to UBC, now live in Vancouver. And one of the things that I did there was geography and English. That's what my degree is in. So perfect. I mean, I'm constantly writing stories, so I'm using the English. And from a geography standpoint, obviously, it's a natural fit with travel. And I had actually planned to go to law school. I was accepted in my fourth year early. So before our Christmas and New Year's vacation, I have parents who love to travel. I kept them for giving me the travel bug. And we were on a cruise of my fourth year of university. And I met someone, a friend of mine, who her father was he was the managing director, which is the equivalent of a president of a large travel corporation that was based out of London. And I spent my summer there between fourth year university and going to law school in September. And I came back and had the toughest conversation that I've ever had with my parents, who are both extremely well educated. My dad was a surgeon. My mom has a teaching degree. It was, my path was kind of set. And there was no PowerPoint 30 some odd years ago. But I came with the list of pros and cons and saying, I'll defer law school, not go, but let me try what I want to do in the travel industry. And I've really never looked back.
Wow. What a progress to
Yeah.
go from law. And I love that you did like a pros and cons list. That's a very, very lawyer thing to do. So
Yeah.
smart idea.
And you asked how I got into broadcasting. I have no background in it, but 6 months into starting my business, I put a proposal together to do a travel segment. And I actually was just going to feed the information to what I suggested was a young reporter. And the person at the TV station said, why don't you do it? And so I did it. And then they invited me back. And they invited me back for a weekly segment. And then BC TV at the time, which is now Global BC, there was someone there who said, would you consider coming over to BC TV? There's someone doing this, but you could offset his age and gender and do a segment. And that was starting, I was on maybe once a month. And then it started every Thursday noon has kind of been the go-to show. And it kind of evolved from there, from just talking about deals, which is still one of my favorite parts of this business, is finding the deal. And I'll go back to that. But now I'm on, 5 segments a week and more of a travel journalist. So kind of letting people have news that they can use with respect to travel, but still ending with some really good deals in the marketplace. And I always account finding the deals in the marketplace. So any women that are listening may appreciate the fact that, when you find a pair of Jimmy Choos at like Winners and you're like, yeah, I love that deal. For me, finding that deal and then having people take a trip that they never, ever thought that they would be able to do, like a bucket list trip, say to Peru and Machu Picchu, say I find a deal, which I have right now, for under $2,500, including the airfare, the accommodation, everything, taxes in. And seeing people come back and then tell me that they saw it and they loved it. And that's the real joy in this for me, is getting people to see the world and appreciate how lucky they are to actually travel. And I know Canadians and people all around the world really value travel. People spend more money on travel than they do their RSPs and things. So I get it. It's a real priority. But to see that joy in people, to take those trips that they may have saved up for a year or two to do, it's kind of the sweet spot for me in the industry.
I love it. I can feel your passion as you talk about it. And there's something to be said about the travel bug. Once you have it, when you work in the travel industry, you really do feel it. And you almost crave that hunt of the deal. And then you're right. It's so satisfying when people go.
It really is. And I also really personally live for that feeling of seeing something that I have read about and seeing it. I remember seeing, there's a couple of, moments in my mind that really stuck out. Seeing Machu Picchu, going up the Citadel, or going up Machu Picchu, and you kind of a back and forth bus ride to get up there, and then you finally get there. But as you're going in the bus, you see the Citadel for the first time, and it's also who you're with. I mean, I was with my husband and my two
Mhm.
kids and my mom and dad, and I was sitting beside my dad on the bus.
Oh.
And I remember looking at him and getting that lump in my throat, of I
Mhm.
am so grateful to be seeing this, but also to be seeing it with my parents and my
Mhm.
kids and my husband. The other time was when we were in South Africa. It was the entire Newell side of the family. Newell is my maiden name. I never changed it, but we
Mhm.
all went, and there were 13 of us, and we were in the Kalahari, and which is just the most magical place. There's no light pollution, there's no sound, there's
Mhm.
no buildings, and there's red sand at our feet, like that rusty orange sand. And we're having a dinner, and it's just our family and the people who are making the food and helping us. And I'm sitting at this long table with my family all around, my brothers, their wives, my nieces and nephews, my kids, my parents, sitting across from my parents. And I see what at that time, for the first time, was the Southern Cross above them.
Mm.
And I thought, like, a tear as welled in my eyes. Like, even now, I kind of get emotional about
Yeah.
talking about it. So grateful to be there and to be there with my family. Like, I only hope that I can do this again. And it was just magical. Those are the moments.
Those are the moments. The moments are the only things we can take with us. Our moments, our memories, everything else is just stuff. Those
Yeah.
are those are the true moments that we really do cherish. That's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I agree with you. I think travel is something, but it changes us. It changes us for the better. We have these memories. It opens up our minds. That's just beautiful. Those examples that you gave. I want to talk a bit about your transition into the travel world. So you were going on your law degree, and then did you just all of a sudden decide you want to run a travel agency, or did you
Yeah.
become a travel agent first? You did straight to
Right.
the top. I love it.
So one of the things, my family are true entrepreneurs. So although my
Mhm.
dad was a surgeon, my mom started a business, and they have grown that. And now my brothers and my husband really run that. And it's a very, very large company. And so being an entrepreneur was something that I grew up with. And I knew with travel, becoming a travel agent, you can go to school, but a lot of it is hands-on learning. And when I was in the industry starting out way back 31 years ago, there were lots of different travel agencies out there. People were buying franchises and things, and I didn't want to do that. I learned very early from my family that if you have a service business, that you're making mistakes. If you're not making money, you need to be lean, surround yourself with people that really complement you and can pick up maybe some slack that you have. So surround yourself with really smart people. So I did that. I brought people on that were really smart early on. I remember hiring someone about 3 months in, because my first clients were referrals from my family, and not from my friends. They didn't have the money to go. It was they were in their early 20s. It was my parents' friends. And now, keeping in mind, my dad was a surgeon. He had a lot of doctor friends. And so it
Mhm.
was some pretty epic trips that I was looking at booking, but the business quite grew word of mouth quite quickly. So I ended up having to bring somebody on and realize that by doing that, it made me look better, by
Mhm.
surrounding myself with smart people. So it slowly grew that way. And then having that niche of mass media with travel only grew the business exponentially. That it's, being luck is kind of opportunity, and being ready and taking advantage of that
Mhm.
at the same time. And so I did that. I was scared
Yeah.
along the way, but I always pushed myself, and really that's kind of how I grew the business.
Beautiful. And you're right. It's luck. I always think luck is something that can be removed from a business because it's putting yourself out there. It's asking the questions. It's getting your face, like putting the proposal together for what's global news now. If you didn't do that, you don't ask, you don't get. So
Yeah.
good for you for starting that so early. Why travel best bets? Why the name? How did you come up with that?
Actually, that is not the legal name of the business. The legal name, when I
Okay.
started 31 years ago, was Jubilee Tours and Travel Limited. Really long,
Oh.
and I wanted something regal. Regal Travel was gone. Royal, all these things. So I ended up settled on Jubilee about 10 years in. I was just like, okay, this is just, I've got to change this. And it was simply because people spelled Jubilee wrong. 2 L's, 2 E's,
Ah,
1 E. Okay, it was a mess,
yep.
honestly. So we slowly changed it to Travel Best Bets by Jubilee Travel, and then just removed the Jubilee Travel. So if that was, 2 decades ago. Sometimes if people have been in the industry for a really long time, they still remember that name, which is fine. But we did a DBA, doing business as Travel Best Bets. And then I changed everything to keep it really consistent. So our phone number is 1-877-5-BEST-BETS. If you go to our website, there are 5 top picks on the homepage. But then if you go into each section, Hawaii or Mexico or whatever, there's 5 top deals. So we've really kept it consistent. And travelbestbets.com. It's a website that so many people go to here in Western Canada. We're always so shocked that at any given time, there's between 20 and 80,000 people on that site.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. Yeah. Well, and I've always seen you on the news. I've seen the Travel Best Bets. I know people went at the travel agency, they'd be like, that Claire, she had a good deal yesterday. We need to find that deal. So we'd hop onto your website as a travel agent, right? For another company. So
we get that all the time.
Right? And why Travel Best Bet? So why would someone want to work? I'm getting this question a lot from people for the home-based travel agent, because it's such a great way to do it. In a way, 2020 really helped shift that over. So there's a lot more home-based travel agents. So why Travel Best Bets to work for out of all the different travel agencies out there?
Well, I think what I hear from the team that are joining is that first of all, it's like a credible company. We're not going anywhere. We were here right through things like 9/11, failure of big, large companies. For 9/11, there were lots of things that hit the industry, but we've really stayed focused. We're big on marketing, so we make it as easy as possible for people to join our team to actually start. And there's so many different ways that I hear people start. Some people definitely do social media. Others, it's word of mouth. Others, they were in business and they just, it's all referrals from the get-go. People that they did business with before. If you have that passion for travel and you're already organizing your own trips and you've done it, becoming a home-based agent is quite easy. But we make it super simple. I think that's the key. We do the marketing for people, our programs behind the scenes. First you get good at them and then you get fast at the programs, but it's all web-based. We keep it as easy as possible. And when you go to our website as a consumer and you can see what's on there, if you're logged in as a home-based agent, below each of those deals, it'll tell you how to book it for your clients.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Easy.
So yeah, we keep it super, super simple. And we call our home-based team Connected Agents. And I chose that name because I want them to feel like part of the business. I want them to feel like we're all one family. And actually, we just came off of 5-night Alaska cruise on our first ever home-based agent conference, and we had 110 people on board,
nice.
which is so fun. And it was really nice to see the stories. And I'm always so, I'm excited and energized and excited to hear what they are doing. They're so creative. They come up with their own ways of marketing, and head office here really helps them do that. But they're doing things that are so innovative and unique. And some of them are banding together and using the Facebook group for them all and helping each other. There's an agent that I can think of who does 4 big group trips a year that she travels on, but she's partnered with another home-based agent who covers her often, and they share commission. Others will do trade shows together and split the cost, or head office will pay for half of that and give prizes. So it's just a real community. And I never, ever thought that it would get to this stage.
It really has grown into something special. And it's your entrepreneurial spirit that started it, but then it's also an entrepreneurial spirit of all of these other people that are looking to get creative and do something different and have their own work-life balance really too. So it's a beautiful way to do it.
It is. And we see people doing it full time, like people who have been in the industry and they've got this really big book of clients. There's other people who start it and they do it as a side hustle. They end up loving it and
Yeah.
transition into doing this full time. So it's a real hybrid for people. It's whatever you really want it to be.
Perfect. So, so good. And I know you're constantly sharing your tips, your advice, the news, obviously, that you find in travel. So I have some questions for you, and they're
Okay.
all around your favorites.
Okay.
So off the top of your head, I would love to know where your favorite city is.
Oh, I'm a big city girl. So
Mm,
I'd probably say New York, London,
mhm.
a big city.
Big city. Okay. Favorite international food.
Oh, I love Japanese. Oh, and I like
Mm.
Italian too.
Oh, good. Yes. I'm half Italian. I'm biased, so
Yeah,
I
there
have
you
to love
go.
Italian. Yeah. What's one thing you cannot travel without?
A great carry-on travel bag because I take carry-on only.
Good for you. Ooh, I'm going to put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that.
Okay.
If you could live in one country for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Here in Canada, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change Vancouver. I absolutely love it. If I was to go anywhere else, I also like that little stretch in California, like La Jolla. So
Mm,
like just a little bit north of San Diego, like that whole Laguna Beach area. I love that part of the world as well.
okay. Nice.
Pretty.
I haven't been, but that sounds beautiful. Favorite airline?
I'm gonna have to say Air Canada, just
Mm,
because they've made it so easy for me with Aeroplan and all my credit cards, and I've always get a great experience. And now is with a little bit of status, I know with the upgrades and
mhm,
they do treat me well. Although I know that there are amazing airlines, the ones out of the Middle East that are so amazing, like Emirates and Qatar, and
mm.
but as far as I'm concerned, I love my Air Canada.
I agree. Canadian. I'm a BC girl too, through and through.
Yeah.
There's no place like home. There's no place like
No.
home ever. Yeah. Favorite cruise line?
Um, there's really ultra luxury and there's some smaller. I will have to say a couple. I like two. I really like Scenic. They have an ocean
Mm,
yacht. It is very, very pricey. But it
mhm,
is beautiful. I took that to Antarctica, less than 200 people,
mm,
really beautiful. The godmother is Helen Mirren. That
mm,
one is stunning. For more mainstream, I like all of the major brands, but I personally, the last one that I traveled on was Celebrity. You get the big ship feel. And if you're traveling with a multi-gen family, it's great. If you're traveling as a couple, it's great. If you are
mm.
ultra luxury, they have a kind of a ship within a ship type of service called The
Oh,
Retreat, which is that ultra luxury with everything included, Michelin star restaurants. But because it's a big ship, you get all the entertainment that you would want if you want a
mhm.
hairdresser, if you want to go to the casino, if you want the dancing, if you want the Broadway style shows. So, and this will change over time, but
Yeah.
right now I do like those.
Beautiful. They sound amazing. My mom just got back from a Windstar. She
Very.
did. Yes. And she had a fabulous time and the smaller ship too. So more of that smaller feel. But I didn't know
Yeah.
that Celebrity had that, the retreat. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
some of the cruise lines are doing this as well. I do have to
Hmm.
say that cruising, there was a report that came out and it was looking at numbers in Q4 of 2024, and it basically said that cruising, you're getting way more millennials that are doing it than ever before, and Gen Z, and simply because I think that there's a cruise really for everybody, small ships,
Yeah.
big ships, but also no matter where in the world you want to be. It was hit the hardest by the pandemic, so the pricing hasn't come back to where it was pre-pandemic. So I always say,
Oh.
look at a land, but also look at a cruise wherever you happen to be going, because you might be pleasantly surprised with the price. And there is something to be said about the convenience of unpacking once and waking
Hmm.
up in a different city.
Absolutely. And with a beautiful view, balcony.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. That's
Oh
the
yeah.
way to go. Oh, I love it. Thank you to this episode's sponsor, Kentucky Holidays. Let me tell you, I'm speaking from experience. I have traveled on these tours and I have seen the world in a group setting and made lifelong friends because of it. Check out the link in the episode description so you can find out their last minute deals, their promotions, and where they can take you around the world. You do not want to miss it and you will have no regrets. Happy travels. I mean, you did share earlier some of the most memorable moments that you've had
Yeah.
traveling. Would you say that there's a moment that stands out that was the most daring moment that you've had while traveling?
I was doing something for in New Zealand. It was based on Tourism New Zealand, and Air New Zealand was involved as well. And I went there. Sometimes I do things on trips that I would never normally do. But during that trip, we went to Rotorua, and I went
Hmm.
inside the plastic ball and rolled down a hill. I jumped off the Sky Tower in Auckland. Kind of a
Whoa.
you're connected. And I also was kind of bolted on like by a rope and walked over a huge bridge that in Auckland. So things that I never would have normally done, I did on that trip to New Zealand. Kind of an adventure style that we were showing all the sides of New Zealand from an adventure
Wow.
standpoint. And I loved it. What a thrill. Because normally I'm a total scaredy cat.
Mhm. Isn't it so funny how we really change into a different person sometimes when we travel? And even I say to my husband all the time, I'm like, man, we were in Sri Lanka and we climbed 2,000 steps to get the top of a rock of an old castle. And here we're in Kelowna, and I'm like, yeah, we'll go for a walk downtown now.
I know. I know. It
Adventure's
does
different.
bring out something in you to go and do this. I mean, really, when you're on
Yeah,
a safari, do you really want a lion, 20 feet away from you? I was
totally.
right. Even in the Galapagos, I'm quite claustrophobic. Maybe people don't know that about me.
Mm.
So it took a lot for me to even learn how to snorkel. So I did it in a bath and
Mm.
then in a pool. And then eventually when I was in the Galapagos, it's a really big part of going to that while walking on the islands is one part being in the water and looking, with the tiny little penguins that are shooting by you and the sharks below you
Oh,
and
wow.
turtles.
Ooh.
So I remember being, you kind of get that
Yep.
you can hardly breathe when I was snorkeling. But one of the things that's so special about a place like the Galapagos is that it's a perfect ecosystem. Nothing's hungry. They don't care about you. They're
Mm.
also not afraid of you. So things come much closer than they normally would. Again, something that I would have never done had I not been pushed to see the most out of a destination.
Wow. Well, I'll have you know, in Nova Scotia, there is a great white shark cage snorkel experience. If you would like to do that one day,
Yeah,
not
well,
too far from home.
I did cage dive in
Oh,
when on my trip to South Africa with our family. Newell side of the family went
mhm.
and cage dive with great white sharks off the coast of Cape
Did.
Town out of Goose Bay. Crazy.
Wow. Wow.
They were chumming the water with all this gross stuff. And when you're in there, like the mouths of the great white are right at you with the cage.
Oh my
I know.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I could do that. I mean,
I
I'd
should
have,
have
oh,
actually said
wow.
that. I should have said
Yeah,
that that was one of the craziest things I've done.
that's pretty high. That should be high on the list. Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. What an experience. Unreal. That is a, yeah, I don't know if I could do it, but that's a good one. Really good
Yeah.
one. What would you say with I mean, you've spent thousands upon thousands of hours on radio and TV, tons of research, of course, you do before you're on these shows and talking. What do you think is the most important travel tip?
I've got a few, but I think the
Hmm.
most important would be that as a Canadian, the Canadian government has got a great website that too few travelers visit before they ever go on a vacation. And it's travel.gc.ca. And it's important for two reasons. One of the things that constantly changes is the entry and exit requirements for people. So people just assume that if they've got a valid passport that expires before they come back, that they're okay. And that's not the case anymore. You may need a passport that has validity 3 months, 6 months, 8 months after the date you're supposed to return from the country. You might need an ETA, an electronic travel authorization, and more countries are doing this soon. You'll have to get that when you're visiting the EU and the Schengen countries, as well as the UK, a different one. You may need a visa. So it's really important to go there, travel.gc.ca. But the second reason to visit there is to actually register your trip. And being in the industry for decades now, I've seen a lot of times where all of a sudden there is a situation. It could be political unrest. It could be a natural disaster. I remember one in September when there was a really awful hurricane that hit Cabo. And, you don't really expect it on that side of Mexico. And people who didn't register, the government couldn't get in touch with them to get them on recognizance flights. Had they registered their trip, they would have been contacted and they would have been able to get on some of the flights that were coming out of wherever they happened to be. But there were people that were heading to Guadalajara, Mexico City, just a mess. So I really encourage people to take the 3 minutes it takes to actually register. Some people don't want to do it. They feel like it's government kind of spying on them. The reality is they don't care unless there's a situation that they want to help you with.
Yeah. Wow. Great advice. I've never thought to do that before for any of my trips. Yeah.
Okay. I have multiple at any given time. No matter when I'm leaving Canada, you go there. Once I book my flights, I go on, register the trip, and you can have multiple trips at once actually on that portal. You're just putting in the dates
Nice.
you're going, where you're going, and your contact information.
Perfect. That is great. Great advice. I'm going to definitely spread that one.
Okay,
Really
good.
good tip to know. That's a great one. I've used the websites before. Great for entry exit requirements. That's something that's a must, just to avoid disappointment, avoid getting to an airport and being denied boarding because you don't have the right visa to go somewhere. That's all happened. It has all happened before.
Now, the other thing that I would say is it's a couple of things that are mistakes, but the next most important is people either assuming they've got travel insurance, say on a credit card or through work, but going without enough, or thinking that they're invincible. If I get a cold, I'll just have a cold, in Hawaii or Mexico. In travel insurance, especially emergency medical, isn't for the expected. It's if you cut your foot on a piece of coral, or you slip on a pool deck and you break your arm or break your leg. I have reported, and I hear it in media all the time, of all of these GoFundMe pages where people didn't get it, or they just assumed. We had someone who, we have to make people sign an initial in 3 different places if they're choosing not to get travel insurance. Just assume that they had it on their credit card. We can't look at their policy, their credit card, and they paid with a different credit card. So if you're using your credit card because you've got insurance on it, pay with that credit card and make sure you're actually covered. And then I mean, this is probably the classic. It's not specific to like drill down to a little detail, but the vast majority of people overpack.
Guilty. Right here.
Right.
All
so
the time.
Most people do. And so that's one thing. Even I just go and carry on only for like a 2-week trip. There's things I don't use.
Yeah. It's so true. My mother-in-law is an avid traveler. She went on a 5-month trip and she brought carry-on. So it can be done. It definitely can be done. You just need a good carry-on, like you were saying. And I actually recently got a good carry-on with a nice bag. And it is unreal the amount of things that you can actually fit in there, and you have it all with you on the plane. You don't have to wait. Oh, it is definitely a game changer. So the next trip I go on, I'm going to just try carry-on and we'll see how it goes.
So my husband and I, and my best friend and her husband, when we travel together, we all have matching luggage. And I'm not sponsored by any company. I think there's really great bags out there. But investing in one that has a lifetime warranty is really important. I've had mine for more than a decade. So is my husband and our besties. And sometimes the handle might go or wheel might go. And if it does have a lifetime warranty and it is legit, they will fix it and you'll be back in business. So it's really a key. Sometimes one and done is better than what I mean. I'm a fan of going to places if there's a really great deal. I've often got things at like Winners or Marshalls or something. But investing in the real deal for my bag was for me the right thing to do, because it's it's what I do for a living.
Absolutely, especially when you're traveling so often. How often do you travel? How many flights a year would you say you are on?
I don't know. You said at the beginning that I'd been to 65 countries. I've now been to 73 countries and more coming. And so
Oh, cool.
I do travel a lot.
Hmm.
The next couple of months, I'm probably traveling every 2 weeks. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's for work, maybe giving a keynote or going on a convention trip. Some of the bigger trips that I do with my family carved out well in advance. The
Yeah.
one that's up and coming, for example, in August. Both of my kids are working now, so it's hard to, it's not
Hmm.
just we've got spring break, we've got times that are
Yeah.
carved out. We really have to think about this well in advance. So, and they're bigger trips. I want to do those big bucket list trips,
Nice.
while neither of my kids are married. One's 22, one's 25 right now. So, we really do these things together. And even Christmas vacations, mine are booked
Mm.
long, done, one and done. So that's all
Yeah.
carved out. But so I have lots of things that come up, but I'm probably doing a minimum 2 flights a month, like two
Oh, yeah.
destinations.
Definitely. And of course, Air Canada, you said you are a frequent flyer with, and those points do add up. They make a difference.
Oh
They
yeah.
really do,
So
picking
my
the same
husband,
airline.
yeah,
Yeah.
my husband has a much higher status than I do, because there are some times where I'm getting an agent rate on something and I don't get the points,
Mm,
or I'm taking a route to a destination that Air Canada doesn't have a nonstop. So I will, move around
yeah.
on something, because I actually own an agency. I do get some really great agent rates. So I do take
Yeah.
advantage of that. Whereas my husband, for business, he's traveling, he's going business class, and his status just goes up and up and up. But it absolutely makes a difference if you've got status on any airline. And one of the things
Hmm.
I see people forgetting to do, I don't care if you stay in a hotel for one night or you take one
Yeah.
flight with an airline, go to the website, get your start your points. And there are companies out there, like I think it's points.com. You can move things around from grocery purchases, gas purchases,
Mm,
and move them into, for me, it's Aeroplan. But for if you're
yeah.
with a different organization, you move them around, and at least you might get something free, but you will get something for your hotel stay, or your car rental, or your flight.
Points.com. I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah.
That's great to know because I usually fly WestJet as much as I can. So
Yeah.
I was gold for a little bit. I'm silver right now, but those perks are so nice, especially when you have the carry-ons and you can just whiz on through and you get there and you're pre-boarding, you're comfortable. I agree. It's the best way to travel. Best way to
Absolutely.
travel. What would you say, for the past I guess 31 years in travel, the travel industry with Travel Best Bets. What has been the most surprising thing that you've learned about travel?
It wasn't really surprising. It's just that it is constantly changing. And
Hmm.
even if you've been to a destination, I bet you go back 5 years later, it's a different place.
Mm, great point. Because there's a lot of people that don't, and myself included, for the longest time, wasn't even wanting to go back to some places again, thinking, oh, I would like to go somewhere new, try something
No,
different. But
I'm
yeah.
a big believer in that.
Mm,
My one of my favorite sayings is, "The world is a book, and if you don't travel, you only read one page." And I see people often
mm,
have maybe it's a timeshare, or they own a place, and they're kind of tied to it. They're going back over and
yes.
over. I know people who the only trip they ever do is Palm Springs or Maui, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like they just keep going back, and I feel like they don't know what they're missing, but I feel badly
Hmm.
for them, because I'm thinking there's so many other amazing places to see in this world.
It's true. It is so true. I love that quote too. I actually gave my mom and dad back in the day a huge map, like the one behind me, and I put that quote on the map for them, and then they put little pins wherever they go. But it's got that exact quote on it, so that's amazing. Yeah, but it's
I love
it's
it.
so true, and my parents, they love Hawaii. That was where we would go as kids. We were fortunate to go there on holidays. Love it, beautiful place, and they would go back and back, but they really like to stick within the US. And then my husband and I, we decided to get married in Bali because we went one year and we fell in love and we're like, this place, I mean, we were in love beforehand. We fell in love with Bali
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
And we ended up, I made a joke about it. And then 2 years later, we're like, let's do it. So my parents ended up coming, and I remember the look on my dad's face when we got out of the airport and we had hired a driver. He was taking us to our place, and my dad was in shock. It was like culture shock, but it was so like he just soaked it all up because it was so different. And he's like, I just don't understand how no one gets in an accident here. They're just everywhere. But it was so wonderful seeing it from his perspective and if something new and in awe of a place that actually runs so different than what we're used to.
And that's the
Mhm.
beauty of this. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
I come back to think of what the travel industry faced during COVID and how we lived. Like, it was so horrific. I was practically in the fetal position. It was just so awful for the industry.
Yeah.
And coming back now, all these countries, like I think the latest report said that the World Travel and Tourism Council is saying that of the 185 countries that they monitor, 75% of those, no, actually it's 77%, will actually beat their national records for tourism. So the
Oh,
world is back, which is so great.
yeah,
But
that's
one
amazing.
of the things that I think is important now is that we look at where we go and how we travel, and sustainability should be the front runner. And you see all these
Yeah.
places now in Europe, and everyone wants to go, and it's very exciting for me, watching people go and visiting Venice and Amsterdam and Barcelona. All of these places have also put in new policies, maybe little higher tax, or they're dealing with over tourism, and they're trying to get some extra money to put it against and help with those initiatives. But I think working in the industry, one of the things that has to be a responsibility that I share and our team shares is getting people to go maybe at different times. I know that there are people who are teachers or who have young families that are in school. They're pigeonholed to the times that they travel. It is July and August. But for those who don't, it's, to guide them to go to places. And I understand if you're going to Paris and you're going to France, you want to see the Eiffel Tower, you want to see all the things in Paris. So much else to see in France. So I'm really, that's one of the things that we're focused on, is making sure that people go and get the best experience. And is July and August for Europe the best experience? Probably not. It's hot, it's expensive, and it's super crowded. So, that's something that will help with some of these places. You want to be able to travel and see those places at the times that are right, but maybe get off the beaten path. The other thing is, we as individuals can now travel and make a real difference. And simple things. I'm not talking about, don't take the mini plastics and don't wash your towels every day. That everyone knows that. We've been talking about that for like decades now. But what is really something that you can do is go to those off the beaten path places, shop locally, not in the big chain stores, eat locally. And that alone spreads the travel dollars to those who really need it. There's a lot of places in the world that really rely on tourism. One in every $10 now, the World Travel and Tourism Council is saying, is spent in travel. It's so important to the world. So I just feel like there's just a better way that we can travel moving forward. So that's something that I'm kind of really encouraging people to do.
It's very true. Putting your travel dollars spent not in, really, really large chain places, getting off the beaten path, finding the mom and pop shop, and actually going. And then I find that's the best way, because you actually then you get a piece of what it's like to live in that country or that city or town. You feel so different with what you learn. It's important, very important.
It really is. The other thing that's important, I know that, when you're trying to figure out where you're going, one tip that I always give people is to go to this website called Numbeo. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it, but it's Numbeo. And if you just do a quick Google search, it'll pop up. But I think it's important for people to know, getting there is one thing, and your accommodation. So air and hotel, of course, a big chunk of your stay. But when you're there, certain places in the world, I was in Stockholm, and it was $70 for a 12-minute taxi ride. So to knowing that, like, it's really expensive. So this gives you the cost of like a beer, a coffee, a loaf of bread, and like very basic things, like the cost of living in a place. So it's something I always tell people, I don't want you to come back and say, what the heck? I took a 20-minute ride and it was $100. So, that's important to do your own research ahead of time.
Yeah. Interesting. That's reminds me of clients that went to Iceland and then they came back complaining because it was $20 for a little cup of soup or something.
Right.
And they were like, what is this? This is so crazy.
Yeah.
So,
like, we know that if you're going to Vegas, you're spending $25 for a martini, but you don't really expect that in some of the other places. So it's important to just drill down and find out exactly what the cost of living is when you're actually there.
Exactly. Numbio.
Numbia.
Numbio. I will check that one out. I'll put it link in the description too, just so everyone can check it out.
Sure.
With everything that you've done with journalism, with a best-selling book, is there one thing you can pinpoint that you're most proud of in your career?
Yeah, I think so. I would say that the fact that most of my senior management team has been with me for 20 plus years. And the
Wow.
average person that works in one of our offices has worked with the company and worked with me for a decade. Like, we have long-term staff, and that's something that I am really proud of. I've got a team that is just so, they're loyal, they are smart, they're well trained, and they love travel. So it's a real
Mm.
pleasure for me to come into my office every single day. 31 years in, I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for the fact that I love to come here every single day. And
Yeah.
actually, I was driving home just yesterday, and my dad and mom were both talking to me on speakerphone. And they said, Claire, it's so great that you are still so excited and love what you do. And for my parents to be noticing that, it kind of it spoke volumes to me. I really do. It was a reminder. I really do love this industry, and I feel like I have a lot more to do.
Yeah. And I'm sure you do. What legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think more than anything, I just want to inspire people to travel, and for them to actually go out and do it. And whether they can afford to do something across town or they can go across the world, to soak up the culture and realize it, because travel teaches us so many things. It teaches us how lucky we are to live
Yeah.
where we do when we're traveling, but that at the base, we're all the same. We care about
Mm.
our family and love and shelter and food and the basics, and it just brings us all to an even playing field,
Yeah.
and it just teaches you so much. I remember not thinking that a gap year would be important when I was like 15, but I traveled a lot with my family. If my kids had come to me and say, I want to do a gap year and I want to travel, I'd be like, you bet. Awesome.
Go see the
So
world.
it
Yeah.
really, it just teaches you so much. So if there's a legacy, just that I had inspired some people to get out there and venture and see the world.
I think that's beautiful. And you're definitely doing a really good job of that,
Thank
as
you.
is. So keep up the great work. And you're right. That's very well said, that in the end, we're all the same. We're all looking for the same. We're looking for safe spaces, beautiful experiences, great memories that we can take with us for years to come. And that's what we see when we travel. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful. What would you say the best piece of advice you've received would be?
Well, my parents were very entrepreneurial, and one of the things that they gave me a couple of sayings I always say, which is work hard, play hard. And I go, oh,
Mm.
I want to work hard, but I want to travel hard as well. So work hard, play hard, surround yourself with people that bring out the best in you and kind of fill in your gaps. Be fair, be honest, stay humble,
Mm.
stay kind, and focused.
Mm.
I'm not going to try and do everything and be everything to everyone. I've stayed in my travel lane and not really deviated from that. So the other is, if you build it, they will come. And so growing the business, sometimes I'm really scared, but
Yeah.
I'm building it, and they have come. I'm really grateful for all
Mhm.
the loyal customers we've had over these 31 years.
Absolutely. And they're grateful for you. I'm sure of it. They really are. Thank you for your insight, for your time today. I appreciate this. I know that so many will hear all of these fabulous tips and just be inspired to travel. So mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Well,
Where
thank you
can
for having
people
me.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Where can people find you online, social media?
The best place would probably be at the website, which is travelbestbets.com. Lots of people are following us on Instagram at travelbestbets, but I also do have like a personal / travel, which is just at Claire Newell Travel.
Awesome. I will make sure that they're all in the description. Thank you again for your time, and I look forward to seeing where the travels and the travel industry is going to take you next. If you like this episode, please subscribe, download a few more, and leave a review. I really would love to hear from you, what you enjoyed and what your key takeaways were. And of course, please let me know if there's any aspect of the travel industry you want me to talk about next. You can also search for the hashtag SheDaresToTravelPodcast on Instagram and comment on the episode's post with your questions. I'd love to answer them all for you guys. I hope you enjoy your day, stay so well, and until next time, fly straight.